way. She will first go to condole the death of a former PCC president, Mrs. Irene, about 2-3 kilometers from here, and then she will be here. After paying homage to the memory of late Lata Mangeshkar ji, she will begin a meeting. Our candidate Alexio has given her double duty in Nuvem constituency. She has to address one meeting here and one meeting a little away. Therefore, you will kindly bear with her if she speaks briefly. I'm here to share a few key thoughts with you. You all know Alexio. I don't have to introduce Alexio Sequeira to you. I'm here to ask you to think about your future and the future of your children and your family. There are many candidates here. In a multi-party democracy, no, please record later, not now. No, please record later, not now. Please stop recording now. No, please don't disturb the meeting. Call him. Call the gentleman here. Ask him to turn around. Please, you can't record now, sorry. You can't record now, sorry. Yeah. In a multi-party democracy, it's natural that there are several parties. But what do several parties do? Not everyone can win. Only one candidate can win. Here the issue in Goa today, as I've gathered in the last 5 months, should the BJP government continue for another 5 years? Or should it be replaced by another government? You break up the issues. Who is speaking? Who is speaking there all the time? The issue is, should the BJP government come for one more 5-year term, or should it be replaced by a government? That's the only question that you have to answer on St. Valentine's Day on the 14th of February. Of course, those who want the BJP to continue will vote for the BJP. I understand that. I sympathize with them. I extend to them my sympathies. They are wrong, but they have a right to be wrong. In a free country, everyone has a right to be wrong. But there is a wave sweeping across Goa which says 10 years is enough. 10 years is enough. Enough is enough. We have to replace you with another government. The question is, which party can replace the BJP? You know better than I do which party can replace the BJP. Here we have an AAP candidate. We have a TMC candidate who left our party because he was not given a seat. We can't give a seat to 2 people. We can only give a seat to 1 person. But the disease in Goa is, if one person does not get a seat, he immediately goes to another party. How do you switch loyalties? How do you switch ideologies overnight? I'm not able to understand. But can the TMC replace the BJP? Can they win enough seats to form a government? Can the AAP win in sufficient number of seats to replace the government. Even a child knows it cannot. Surely the leader of TMC sitting in Kolkata knows that her party will not win enough seats to replace the BJP. And surely the leader of AAP sitting in Delhi knows that his party will not win enough seats to replace the BJP. So what are they doing here? The plain and blunt truth is they are dividing the non-BJP vote. They are cutting into the non-BJP vote. They may win a seat or two, but every constituency where they contest, they will take away 500, 600, 1,000, 2,000 votes. Who will that help? I'm assuming that all of you want the BJP government replaced. And your friends, your families, people whom you influence also want the BJP government replaced. If I was you, the choice is very clear. As I said, every individual has a right to be right, he has a right to be wrong. If I want to be wrong, if I want the BJP to continue for another 5 years, I'll vote for the BJP. And you will continue to suffer. And suffer in many ways. Did you know that according to the RBI's published data, and I challenge the Chief Minister of Goa to deny it, I challenge him to a debate on this, on television or anywhere. In 2020, of all the 35 states and the Union Territory, the only state which had negative growth rate and a huge negative, -8%, was Goa. Goa was below Meghalaya. Goa was below Arunachal Pradesh. Goa was below Puducherry. Goa was below Andaman Nicobar. Of all the 35 states and union territories, the lowest growth rate and negative growth rate, -8%, is Goa. The economy is slide. Your environment is damaged. Security is in danger. Goa is floating on a sea of debt, 24,000 crore rupees. And projects are being implemented which the people don't want. People don't want the 3 linear projects, but the BJP won't say a word about it. People don't want Goa to be converted into a coal hub, but the Chief Minister won't say a word about it. Day before yesterday, a gross injustice has been done by converting the Marmagua Port Trust into a Marmagua Port Authority, which means Goa's laws will not apply. You have created a state within a state. You have created a government within a government. None of the laws will apply. Property laws won't apply, town and country planning laws won't apply, labor laws won't apply. Nothing will apply in Marmagua Port Authority area. All this is against the wishes of the Goa people. The BJP is doing that. For 10 years they have done that. 10 years they have stood silent against the onslaught of the central government. They dare not speak a word. And if somebody wants the BJP to continue, I can only extend my sympathies and say sorry. But the bulk of the people, the vast majority, want the government to go. We want the 3 linear projects scrapped. We want Goa should not be a coal hub to transport coal from one state to another state via Goa and spread coal dust all over Goa. We want Section 16B to be scrapped. We want the environment to be protected and preserved. Molam Sanctuary. We want security for women and children to be enhanced. We want more women to be recruited to the police. We want all recruitment to government jobs done through an independent staff selection commission, without discrimination, without favoritism, without corruption. They have to vote intelligently and wisely. They have to vote for a party which can replace the BJP. Therefore, I appeal to you, reject the TMC candidate, reject the AAP candidate, reject the independent candidate, choose the Congress candidate. We will replace the BJP. We will scrap the three linear projects. We will stop Goa from becoming a coal hub. We will protect your environment. We will protect your security. Now these parties which have suddenly descended on Goa, they have no roots. They have no people who have risen in the party. I joined my party in 1970 as a youth Congress worker. Has the TMC any grassroots worker who's risen? Has the AAP any grassroots worker who's risen? Both the parties are parties of defectors. They have simply allowed entry of defectors from other party and they are fielding them as candidates. I told you the TMC candidate is a defector from the Congress. If we had given him a seat, he will be here. But what ideology? And the TMC announces now, look at their promises. 20 lakh collateral free, 4% interest. I challenge any TMC leader. I think I also know something about finance. I think I also know something about banking. Not much, not as much as the TMC leaders, but I know little. Show me one banker, one person who will lend you 20 lakhs without collateral at 4%. Is there a bank of the TMC? The TMC will become a bank. Is the TMC going to start a bank? Who knows the kind of money the TMC is spending in Goa? Maybe they have enough money to start an own bank. The Goa TMC Bank. Which bank will give you 20 lakhs collateral free 4% interest rate? These are false promises. These are promises which have no meaning at all. The AAP is even better. The AAP tells you, we are going to give every person who's unemployed 3,000 rupees a month. I'm asking a simple question. If you are good enough to give 3,000 rupees a month in Goa for every person who's unemployed, why are you not giving it in Delhi? AAP has been in power for 7 years. Why have they not given it in Delhi? There is no such employment allowance in Delhi. And Delhi is several times richer than Goa in terms of the total income, the total budget. Why are you not giving it in Delhi? They can't fool the people in Delhi. They want to come here and fool the people of Goa. Then they say, we will give 1,000 rupees per month to every woman in Goa. Why are they not giving it in Delhi? Are they giving 1,000 rupees in Delhi to every woman in Delhi? No. They don't give it in Delhi where they are in power for 7 years and they come and make the promise here. And they come and say, we will give free water to everybody. Yesterday I visited 2 constituencies. I went house to house. I asked people, 50% of the houses have tap connection, but there's no water. There's no water, there's only a tap connection. A tap connection does not mean a water connection. How will you give free water? You don't have water enough. You don't produce enough water. How will you give free water? And then the AAP says, we are going to give 300 units of free electricity. Do you know the charges for electricity in Delhi? One of the highest. Domestic consumer pays 8 rupees 63 paisa per unit. Commercial pays 12 rupees 71 paisa per unit. Industry pays 11 rupees 37 paisa per unit. And you come to Goa and say, I'm going to give you free electricity. So don't believe these promises. We have made promises which we will deliver. I will guarantee you every promise that we have made, we will deliver over a period of 5 years. The party is supreme. A Congress government of Goans, by Goans, will rule Goa. Goa will be run by Goans. Goa will not be run by people imported from Bengal. Goa will not be run by people imported from Delhi. Goa will be run by Goans. The party is supreme. The party will keep a vigilant eye over every promise that we have made in our manifesto. I just want to share with you, there are poor people in Goa. Yesterday, when I walked, I found there are slums. There are houses without toilets. There are public toilets which are not usable. There are open drains. Goa may have a high per capita income, built over 40 years after liberation by the first government and then by the Congress. But there are still poor people here. We have promised that the poor people will get a monthly allowance to tide over this crisis. We have promised free education for every deserving student up to post-graduation. So we have made promises which can be delivered. I am willing to challenge anyone to a debate that the promises made in the Congress manifesto cannot be delivered. We will deliver on those promises. I want you not to waste your vote. It is much better to put it to Nota. Instead of putting it to AAP and TMC, it's much better Nota. I don't accept any candidate. Don't waste your vote. The choice is a stark choice. It's black or white. If you want black, nobody here, or there may be somebody here. If you want black, of course you will vote for the BJP, and 10 years of misrule will continue for another 5 years. If you want white, if you want change, if you want a change for the better, if you want your future to be built, vote for the Congress. Please don't vote your vote. The choice is stark. Please vote for our candidate on the hand symbol. I've said this in English because I want this message to go, and I will speak over the next 5-6 days about the false promises made by these chota-mota parties which are imported into Goa. But I want my English speech, the ideas, to be reaching you in Konkani. So I will ask either Digambar or Girish to speak before Priyanka ji will come here, and then she will speak to you. Thank you very much. Girish, you will speak. No, you speak and go.
Thank you, Chidambaran sir ji. It's a very impressive speech. आता तुमच्या मुखार
नुया ब्लॉक काँग्रेस कमिटीन ही जी मिटींग हांगा आयोजीत केल्ली आसा, आमचो काँग्रेस पक्षाचो वर्किंग प्रेसिडेंट आनीक आमचो नुयेचो कॅन्डिडेट बाबा अलेक्स सिक्वेरा हाचे खातीर आमी हांगा सगळे आयिल्ले आसात. बाय प्रियांका गांधी स्पेशली हांगा येतले. आमकां खबर आसा बाब अलेक्स सिक्वेरा सदांच आमच्या पक्षा कडेन लॉयल रावला. लास्ट टायम ताका तिकेट मेळनाशिल्ली, तरी आसतना तेणें पक्ष आमचो सोडूना. तेजे नंतर तेणें सांगलें आपूण ओके, पूण आमी सगळ्यांनी वचोन जेन्ना हें डिफेक्शन जालें, एक न्यू फेस म्हणून लास्ट टायम काँग्रेस पक्षान जाका तिकेट दिल्ली तो सगळ्या नुयेंकारांक जवळ जवळ 30-40 कोटींक ते सगळे बळ आसा तो विकले अमित शहा कडेन. आनी तेजे नंतर ताका लुटपा खातीर वास्कोची थंय PDA दिली, आनी तेजे सॉरी आमची मडगांवची PDA दिली, आनी तातूंतल्यान ताणें रेट्स खूब फिक्स केले. म्हणजे थंय वयतले जाल्यार सामकें प्रामाणीक तो प्रत्येक एका रेट्स फिक्स जाल्ले आसात. फ्लॅट्स असल्यार कितले, प्लॉट्स असल्यार कितें, आनी कलेक्शन एजंटूय तेगेले सारको फिक्स जाल्ले आसात. सो तेणें आपल्याली जोडून काडले आमच्या काँग्रेसच्या वोटाचेर. ताचे नंतर आमी सगळे एक जाले. आनी बाब अलेक्स सिक्युराक आमी रिक्वेस्ट केलो की तूं यो, तूं एक्टिवेट जा आनी तुजे आमकां गरज आसा, कारण ताणें पार्टी सोडून आशिल्ली केन्नाच. आनीक बाब अलेक्स सिक्युराक सगळे आमचो आयकॉन पार्टी परत एक्टिवेट केली. आमी ब्लॉक रिकॉन्स्टिट्यूट केलो आनी परत आमी नुया नव्या हेतून काम सुरू केलें. गोंयकारांनी आमकां सांगलें की काँग्रेस पक्षान थोडो बदल हाडपाक जाय आनी तो बदल म्हणजे जे डिफेक्टर सोडून गेल्याक ते इलेक्शना टायमार परत परत येतात आनी तांकां काँग्रेस आमी तिकेट दितात. पयलीं म्हणजे तुमी एकूय डिफेक्टराक आमी तिकेट दिनाकात. आमी तेंचे कडेन कोर्टान फायट करतात. आमची चालू आसा. फाल्यां लास्ट हियरींग जातलें आनी मुखाल्ल्या 2 दिसांक कशी ऑर्डर येवपाक शकता लोकांकूय तेजे नंतर कळटलें. आनी कशी फटींगपण करून काँग्रेसीक आनी नुयेंच्या लोकांक दोगो दिलो आनीक आपल्याक व्हरोन नुयेंच्या सगळ्या लोकांक व्हरोन पावणी केली अमित शा कडेन. आमी फायट करतले. आमी एक स्टेप घेतला डिफेक्शन काबार करपा खातीर. लोक म्हणटा तुमी तिकेट दिनाकात. आमी एकल्याकूय तिकेट दिवना. प्रत्येक कडेन आमी नवीन भुरगे मुखार हाडले, यंग फेसीस आमी मुखार हाडले. आमी त्या विनिबिलिटी आनी तें पळोवपाक गेले ना. डिफेक्टरां एकूय तिकेट दिवचो ना हें आमचें उतर आशिल्लें 2.5 वर्सां पयलीं. आनी आतां लिस्ट अनावन्स जातकर आमी तें लिस्ट प्रॉमीस आमची फुलफील केल्ली आसा. 37 कॅन्डिडेट आमी अनावन्स केले. 37तले 31 कॅन्डिडेट 31 कॅन्डिडेट्स आर न्यू फेसीस अँड यंग फेसीस. फक्त आमचे 6 कॅन्डिडेट आसात जे एक्स MLAs आनीक सिटींग MLAs आशिल्ले. सो ह्या हितूंक आमी जो लोकांक आश्वासन दिल्लें तें आमी फुलफील केल्लें आसा. लोकांक जें आमी सांगलेलें तें फुलफील केल्लें आसा. लोकांनी आमकां सांगलें कोण 2 पांयांचेर कोणाक जेंकां BJP कडेन हें करतात तांकां तुमी भायर उडयात. रवी नायकाले चले दोगूय जेन्ना BJPन गेले आमी त्या दिसात रवी नायकाक सांगलें तुमकां तुयी वस आमकां नाका म्हणून, कारण तो दोनूय कडेन नाटकां करपाक पळयतालो. BJP चले BJPन हो काँग्रेसीन इलेक्शन टायमार येतलो. आमी पयलीं बोल्ड स्टँड घेतलो. आमकां रवी नायक नाका. आमी नवीन लिडर थंय तयार केलो, यंग भुरगो तयार केलो राजेशा सारको आनी आमी कडल्यान ताका तिकेट दिली. रेजिनाल्ड अलेक्स रेजिनाल्ड प्रत्येक फावटी नाटकां करतालो. आमी खूब सोंसलें. नंतर आम आदमी पार्टी वचपाक कॉमेस जालें. लोकांनी दबाव हाडलो, आम आदमी पार्टीन गेलो ना. तेजे नंतर BJPचे लिडरां येता हो तांकांय वचोन मेळटा. तेजे नंतर हेची तिकेट अनावन्स करता हो TMC वयता. पक्षान पयले फावट बोल्ड स्टँड घेतलो. तो परत रिजायन जालो, येवपाक सुतालो. पक्षान थंय दुसऱ्या नव्या भुरग्याक तिकेट दिली आनी एक स्टेप एक मेसेज धाडली गोंयभर असली जी चिकानां आसात ती काँग्रेस केन्नाच टॉलरेट करची ना आनी असली हें मुखार जावचें ना. सो ह्यो चेंजीस आमी हाडल्यो. लोकांनी सांगलें आमकां मॅनिफेस्टो लोकांक विचारून करात. आमी कन्सल्टेशन केलें गोंयभर आनीक आमी सगळ्यांनी ठरयलें की लोकांक कितें जाय तेंच दिवपाचें आनी त्या खातीर 3 लिनियर प्रोजेक्ट्स आनी कोळसो हब करपाचें जे गोंयांक एक BJPन अडानी आनी अंबानी खातीर आयज MPTकूय तेंच केलें तेणी. MPTचो जो एक्ट आसा तो अमेंड केला आनी तेजी सगळे हें आसा ते पावर काडल्या आनी दिल्ली आसा. आमी फायट करतले. प्रत्येक गजाल फायट करतले. गोंयकारांक जें जाय तें फायट करतले. गोंयकारांनी सांगलें आमकां 16B स्क्रॅप जावपाक जाय. आमी मॅनिफेस्टोन प्रॉमीस केलां की आमी इलेक्शन जातकर 1 म्हयन्या भितर 16B हे स्क्रॅप जातलें. 3 लिनियर प्रोजेक्ट्स सगळे प्रोजेक्ट्स रिव्यू जातले आनी ते गोंयकारांक नाका ते प्रोजेक्ट आमी स्क्रॅप करतले म्हणून आमी आश्वासन दिल्लें आसा. आयज जो विकासा खातीर तुमचो आमदार ज्या आमदाराक तुमी वोट करून जो आयज BJPन गेल्लो विकास करपा खातीर, डेव्हलपमेंट करपा खातीर, जॉब्स दिवपा खातीर, हे सगळे विकास जर जाय आशिल्लो आयज ह्या बाबाशनाक कापस्ताद कित्याक जाली ना? ज्या BJPन तो गेल्लो, ज्या BJPक तेणें नुयेंच्या लोकांक व्हरून विकलेले, ज्या वोटरांक तेणें विश्वासघात केलो ताका कापस्ताद कितें जालना की हांगा BJPच्या कमळाचेर कॉन्टेस्ट करपाक. आयज इलेक्शन टायमार येतकर हो रिजायन जाता आनी आयज नाटकां करता आनी तूं सांगता थंय की तूं इलेक्ट जातकर काँग्रेसीक येतलो म्हणून. तूं कितें दिसता नुयेंचे लोक तूं पिश्यांक हाडटलो परत पिश्यांक हाडटलो काय म्हणून? ती उतर दिल्ली मरे लोकांक. सगळे जर आमदार आमचे गेले, 15 आमदार जर गेले जाल्यार एकलोच बाबाशान म्हणटा केन्नाच वचचो ना म्हणून. म्हणजे तुका ती ऑफर वाडयतकर मागीर तूं गेलो. आयज BJPन एक कॅन्डिडेट दवरला. तो BJPचो खरो कॅन्डिडेट न्ही. तो लोकांक फटोवपाक बीजेपीक दिसता ते गोंयकारांक फटोवपाक शकता म्हणून एक नांवा पुरते एक कॅन्डिडेट दवरला. बीजेपीचो खरो कॅन्डिडेट हो बाबाशान विल्फ्रेड डिसा जाका आमी म्हणटात तो बीजेपीचो खरो कॅन्डिडेट. आनी इलेक्ट जर चुकोन जालो आमकां खबर आसा आमकां कॉन्फिडन्स आमकां खात्री आसा इलेक्ट जर चुकोन जालो जाल्यार हो परत बीजेपीकूच सपोर्ट करतलो. त्या खातीर आमी म्हाका दिसता अलर्ट रावपाक जाय. आमी सगळ्यांनी ह्या एका घुस्पपाक जायना. तांकां दिसता पयशांनी ते लोकांक विकती घेवपाक शकता कारण त्यांनी गेल्या करप्शनाक बीजेपी सरकारान अफाट पयसो केल्लो आसा आनी तातूंतल्यान तांकां दिसता की वोटरांक ते विकती घेतले म्हणून पयशांनी. हांव बीजेपीक सांगपाक सोदता बीजेपीच्या लिडरांक सांगपाक सोदता विल्फ्रेड डिसाक सांगपाक सोदता गोंयकार तुमच्या ह्या पयशांनी विकती घेवपाक इतले चीप जाल्ले ना. आसतले एक 5% 10% लोक पूण गोंयकार हो स्वाभिमानी. गोंयकारान डिसिजन घेतला डिफेक्शनाचे व्हायरस काबार करपाक आनी नुयेचे आमचे सगळे वोटर्स वोटींग करता आसतना फर्मली वोटींग करतले आनी डिफेक्शनाचो जो व्हायरस गोंयांक आसा तो काबार करपाक आमकां नुयेकारूय मदत करतले आनी आमकां गोंयकारूय मदत करतले. आमची मॅडम हांगा पावत येयल्याक हांव फक्त वयतना एकूच सांगता विजनरी बँकेचो इशू खूब जालो खुबशे लोकांचे पयशे तितून गेले अशे खुबशे लोकांक त्रास जाल्ले आसात आनी त्या खातीर आमचे कडेन ह्या विजनरीचे जे सगळे जे विक्टीम जाल्ले आसात आलेस बाब सिक्वेरान लीड घेतली फक्त तेगेल्याच मतदारसंघाची न्ही ते खूब जाण कुर्तरी आसात थोडे बाणावलेचे आसात नावेली आसात आनी आमचे कडेन वेगळी चर्चा केली. आमी ती दिगंबर बाब कामती कडेन आमी चिदंबराम कडेन चर्चा केली कशें आमी हेल्प करपाक शकतात आनी तितूंतल्यान आमी एक सोल्युशन काडून तेजे नंतर आमचे सरकार येतकर सगळे परत बसून ह्या हेजेर आमी सोल्युशन काडटले आनी ज्या ज्या लोकांचे पयशे ह्या हेजे खातीर गेल्ले आसात तांकां आमी कशें करून ते मदत करून तांकां आमी रिकवर करपाक शकतात जावं कशी करून एक फॅसिलिटी आमी करपाक शकता गव्हर्मेंटांतल्यान तो आमचो विचार आसा. त्या खातीर सगळ्यां कडेन मागता आमी युनायटेडीर रावया. आम आदमी पार्टीनूय हांगा वोट्स फोडपाक दवरल्यात TMCनी दवरल्यात चुकोन कोणीय जर इलेक्ट जालो जाल्यार हे सगळे बीजेपी कारण बीजेपी डायरेक्ट आमकां हरोवपाक शकना म्हणून बीजेपी कितें करता वेगळे वेगळे पार्टी गोंयांत हाडटा जवळ जवळ 3-4 पार्टी हाडून दवरलेले आसात आनी तांकां मतां फोडप आनी तेंगेलो जो कॅन्डिडेट आसा त्या कॅन्डिडेटाक ते इलेक्ट करून घेवपाची स्वप्नां आसात. आयज आमी जो सर्वे करतात वेगळे वेगळे एजन्सीन सर्वे केला प्रत्येकान हें केला की 80% गोंयचे लोक जे आसात तेणी डिसायड केल्ले आसा की आनी बीजेपी सरकार म्हणटा नाका 10 वर्सां म्हणटा ती खूब जाली परत आनी बीजेपीक दवरना आनी म्हाका खात्री आसा जी 1994 तांकां जी 4 सिटां मेळिल्लीं त्या 4 सिटां कडेन ह्या पावटी गोंयकार तांकां परत 4 सिटांचेर पावयतले हो विश्वास आमकां गोंयच्या लोकांचेर दिसता आनी म्हाका खात्री आसा ज्या तरेन आमकां रिस्पॉन्स मेळटा लोकांनी डिसिजन घेतलेले आसा ह्या पावटी काँग्रेस सरकार हाडया 24 ते 26 सीट करून आमी सरकार करतले आनी रिजल्ट जाले त्या बरोबर इमिजिएटली आमचो सरकार स्थापत जातलो राजभवन वचून असो आमचो शपथ घेतलो वयतलो. देव बरें करूं.
हॅलो देव बरें करूं. प्रियंका गांधी समेस्त गोंयकाराच्या वतीन आमी प्रियंकाजी गांधी हांगा येवकार दितात. मोगा इश्टानो काल आमच्या देशाची एक व्हड अशें रत्न भारत रत्न लता मंगेशकर ह्यो आमकां सोडून गेल्यो. गोवा इज नोन फॉर आर्ट एंड कल्चर. Mangeshkars had their roots in Goa. Priyanka Gandhi ji will begin with her campaign offering tributes to Lata Mangeshkar ji. Don't clap. We have lost a jewel. I request सगळ्या कडेन मागता की हे ट्रिब्यूट्स आमच्या लिडर्सांनी घालतकीर आमी कांय वेळ उबे रावन आमची व्हड अशी एक सिंगर जिणें गोंयचें नांव व्हड केलें जिणें आमच्या देशाचें नांव व्हड केलें तांकां हांगा ओपया. आय रिक्वेस्ट ऑल द डिग्नेटरीज टू प्लीज स्टँड फॉर फ्यू मिनिट्स एंड ऑफर ट्रिब्यूट्स टू लेट लता मंगेशकर जी. देव बरें करूं. Thank you.
आमचे मदें यूथ काँग्रेसाचो प्रेसिडेंट पावन सरलेलो आसा. मोठ्यान ताळी मारून ताका येवकार दिता. माचयेर येवची करून. आतां प्रियंकाजी तुमच्या मुखार आपलें उलोवप करतले. मोठ्यान ताळे मारून आमी येवकार दिवया. प्रियंकाजी जिंदाबाद. प्रियंकाजी जिंदाबाद. काँग्रेस पार्टी. काँग्रेस पार्टी.
Would you prefer English or Hindi? English, okay. Okay. So I welcome all of you here today, and I'm always, as always, very, very happy to be here amongst all of you. And I get a lot of love and affection. I've just come from a fellow party worker's house whose mother had served the Congress for many, many decades. And they showed me a little bit of your Goan hospitality, which is always so welcoming and kind. We're all so grateful to you. So first of all, thank you very much for that. Dinesh Gundurao ji, Girish Chodhankar ji, Digambar Kamath ji, Shri Alex Sequeira ji, Shri Srinivas ji, Joe Diaz ji, and workers of the Congress Party, Youth Congress volunteers, Mahila Congress, Minority Congress, members of the media. I feel privileged to be able to address you today, even though it's election season, and you must be quite fed up of listening to speeches of politicians, many of them promising you lots of things which you aren't very sure whether are going to happen or not. But actually, this election for Goa is really, really significant. And it's significant not just from the point of view of us political parties, but particularly from the point of view of Goa. What we have here is a state rich in resources, rich in natural beauty, rich in skill, with a good youthful population, and yet the second highest in unemployment in India. And yet, the focus of the government, instead of being on development, instead of being on how to move forward, how to protect the natural beauty of Goa, how to protect your resources, or at least to utilize them for your own good, there is no such focus. The focus is only on staying in power, and by whatever means one can stay in power. You saw the biggest example of that was what happened after the result of the last election. It was very clearly evident that power was being usurped, and democracy was being upturned. You then got a government that focused on creating wealth for its own industrialist friends. You have a huge example of that here in Goa itself. You have the double laning of the highway. You have these three projects, the highway expansion, the double tracking, and the electricity lines that are going through your natural habitat, carrying coal from one end to the other, only for the benefit of one single industrialist. Not a single youth from Goa is getting a single job out of this exercise. What are you getting? You're getting pollution, your environment is being destroyed. So this is symbolic of actually what is happening to Goa. If you listen to the speeches of BJP leaders, they tend to say that they want to build a golden Goa. And every time I hear that, I think of that story, of the goose that laid the golden eggs, of the farmer and his wife who had found the goose which was laying golden eggs, and they were enriching themselves by selling these golden eggs. And then one day they sat down, they became so greedy that they had a discussion with each other and said, look, this goose must be having so many golden eggs inside, why don't we just cut her up and take them out? And to me, that is what is being done to your state. They are seeing resources, there is greed, they are seeing huge amount of resources, and they're wanting to take those resources to enrich themselves, rather than actually enriching the state, understanding your culture, there is a disrespect for your individuality, for your culture, for your identity. And when you have a government that actually internally cannot accept your differences, cannot accept your culture the way it is, does not want it to flourish, wants a uniform culture, then the result is that your state suffers, that you suffer. Everywhere in Goa, wherever I have been, I was here earlier for campaigning. I spoke to people from all different sections of society. I spoke to women, I spoke to young people, I spoke to fishermen. Everybody was under stress and pressure. Nobody, not one of them, could answer the question I asked, has your life improved in the last 5 years, with a yes. Not a single one of them. Each one only said that they had added stress. You have a flourishing tourism industry. It's been the most affected with COVID. You saw that during COVID, there was very little support for you from the government. Aside from that health support and the health services, and even helping those doctors and nurses to perform their duties, making life easier for them, rather than complicating it further, you didn't see any of that happening. At the same time, you saw that because of COVID, because of the lockdowns, your tourism industry was deeply affected. Again, nothing was done to help you. We've seen a budget recently, and in that budget, there are lots of provisions for the big industrialist friends of the government. But there are no provisions for the middle class, there are literally no provisions for the poor, and there are no provisions for the small and medium businesses on which manufacturing thrives and on which jobs thrive. So when we say unemployment is an issue, the greatest employers across the country are the small and medium businesses, are the businesses that you run, your tourism business here, you know, somebody's running a small hotel, somebody's running a restaurant, those are good for employment. Small manufacturing units, those actually help employment. There is absolutely no stress in supporting them. There is no focus on what could have been done once, of course, Corona hit the whole world. In that sense, everybody was affected. But you've seen in other countries how the government worked proactively to help those affected businesses, how they provided support, how they, for example, I know in the state I work in Uttar Pradesh, which is quite different from Goa, and much larger, but I find over there that people were paying their electricity bills. So shopkeepers were paying their electricity bills through the lockdown, but they had no business. So they started taking loans, and now they are mired in debt. So unless you have a government that thinks progressively, that thinks for you, and that is actually has its heart in the right place, to be honest, that thinks of the state as an identity of its own, with a culture of its own, and of the country, you cannot flourish and progress. So I am here, and I've come all the way to say to you that you are watching what is going on around you. You have seen what has happened in the Mole forest. You have seen what has happened with the hills and the jungles of your beautiful state. You have seen how on Goa Mukti Divas, people were beaten up by the police. You have seen how heritage buildings are being harmed in old Goa. You have seen the job scams, which we are seeing all over the country under BJP rule. I'm seeing in Uttar Pradesh, the children are giving exam after exam. After they give the exam, the cutoff date is changed. The paper leaks, so the exam is cancelled. Then they give another exam, and they wait in hope. They wait for a year, they wait for 2 years. Some children are waiting for 5 to 6 years. And here you have an insane example in which the PA of the minister gets 100 on 100 on a job exam. So there are scams being carried out instead of employment being given. Every government has jobs to give. It also has the funds to help you create employment. None of that is being done here. You're able to see it very clearly. As I said about small businesses, you had GST, you had the lockdown, and right before that, I think I was in Goa at the time when the Notbandi was announced, and suddenly you had demonetization. Now this affected the small and medium businesses worse than it affected anyone else in the country. We were all told, line up, because this is your patriotism and black money is going to be brought back into India. Nothing happened. We never saw a penny of that black money. What we did see was the collapse of many, many hard-working people's businesses which had been built with their sweat and toil. And till today, post-GST, post-demonetization, and post the COVID and the lockdowns, there is no support from the government for you. We hear them talking about building a casino capital here. There's nothing they're doing for the service industry. They talk about safety for women. And I have a fact here, a figure of 24% rise in crime against women in Goa. There is apparently a minister who in one of these cases blamed the girl for the violence that happened against her. And this is typical of a mindset that is unaccepting of actually what the truth is, and unaccepting of the fact that women are equals. You know that I've been working very hard to bring women into the political process. And in Uttar Pradesh, we've said that 40% of the women will fight the elections. The reason I'm doing this, you're nodding, come to Uttar Pradesh. I'll have come here and work after that here, work hard on convincing these men here. So why am I doing that? I'm actually doing it for 2 or 3 different reasons. The first and foremost is that as women and 50% of the population, it is our right to have 50% of the representation. And it's not something anybody is doing us as a favor. It is our right. And we want to fight for our right. But more than that, I feel that politics today has become filled with hatred. It's become filled with anger. You know, you hear speeches, 90% of the speech is negative. Maybe about the other party, but 90% is negative. And there is no positivity in it. I firmly believe that us women, being the practical people that we are and having to always handle so much, actually can bring that positivity, that compassion into politics as well. So it's my belief that all of us women should be helped also to stand up on our feet. And to that, I would like to say that the Congress party in Goa has come out with a manifesto. And in the manifesto, there are a lot of nice things for women, which I would like to tell you about. I'm going to read it. In government jobs which will be provided in Goa, 30% of them will be for women. There will be a working women's hostel in Margao and Panaji for working women. There will be an increase in the number of police stations which are manned by women. And the SHGs will all get 1 lakh rupees of support for each SHG. And aside from that, there are many more things which are in our manifesto. One of them is that there is a Nyay scheme in which 6,000 rupees per month will be given to all the weakest families to help them support themselves. Because one of the things that has happened after all Corona, lockdown, and so many other wrong policies of the government is that those who are poorest and weakest can no longer sustain themselves. This will also help to inject some money into the economy. And that will also help other businesses and the smaller businesses. Along with this, 500 crores of government funds will be allocated to employment itself. Every Goan citizen will get health insurance from the state itself. I'm sorry, I'm translating the facts from Hindi because I was intending to give a Hindi speech here. So all these scams which are taking place in the exams, and especially for the employment exams, though for that, the job selection, there's going to be a special Goa Staff Selection Commission, which will ensure that the corruption that is happening in all these cases comes to an end. Local stakeholders will be involved in the tourism policy. Petrol and diesel will not be able to rise above 80 liters. The government will subsidize 80 rupees per liter. The government will subsidize the remaining amount. and there will be a strong commitment to protect the environment of Goa and to protect the heritage of Goa. In the Congress Party, we understand how important your heritage is to you, both natural and your cultures and your traditions. And it is from that understanding that many, many years ago, my grandmother conducted possibly the only referendum that was ever conducted in India, in Goa, to find out from the people of Goa whether they wanted to be part of the Maharashtra state or they wanted a state to themselves. And with that same respect, and with that same clear respect for your dignity, for your culture, for your traditions, the Congress Party today wants to hand Goa back to Goans. It wants to create policies that are for your benefit, not for the benefit of outsiders. Whether it is the policies on buying of land, whether it is the tourism policy, whether it is the environment, whether it is the fact that industrialists are being allowed to carry coal from one side of Goa to the other, and special provisions are being made for them while the people of Goa are being ignored. All of this, we promise that we are going to focus on fully, and we are going to give you a stable government that works for Goans. So in this election, I come back to what I began with. This is an extremely important election for you, more than for any of us. It is most important for the people of Goa to understand today where their state is heading, and to understand what is happening to it, to understand the way it's being looked at by the BJP. It's simply a resource for their greed for power and for their greed for helping their industrialist friends. So if you want your identity, your culture, and your traditions to remain strong and intact, if you want a government that accepts, understands, and believes the same, then please vote for the Congress in this election. I am here to say to you that we have taken a pledge that the promises that are being made to you will be delivered. We will work hard for you. We will work day and night to provide you with the kind of government that helps you grow and helps the development of Goa. Thank you very much for listening to me. All the very best to all of you.
Priyanka Gandhi! Priyanka Gandhi! Congress Party! Congress Party!